Alright, welcome back. Today we are doing a grid in CSS and stacking it if the screen size is 1024 pixels or lower. This should be pretty easy. I've got my grid layout here, which is going to be set up as div class pre-grid, and then each item in the grid will be a pre-grid item, and we will just give these items a little bit of height and some color. Hopefully you can see my code today. I made it a little bit more zoomy than it used to be. Alright, this is what our items look like at the moment. You can kind of see that they're separated. We have X's and X's and they're just kind of joined together. So we can add a margin to these so we can see. Yeah, so now we have 4 stacked items. And if I resize these, what do? Nothing. They stay the same. You can't really see that, but that's okay. Now we want to add a grid to these items. So our pre-grid is the wrap, and we want to put them in a CSS grid. Oh man, my tabbing is terrible today. Let's fix this tabbing up. To fix tabbing in VS Code, just shift tab to get in there, and then tab it back in, and then select what you want and tab that in. So we can do that the same to this. There we go. Tabbing tutorial, tab in, and then select and tab. Now it doesn't look terrible. I'll just save this. Now we have a grid item. So the way this grid works is display grid, and then we go grid template columns and say how much of the screen we want them to use. These are all using 25% with a gap of 20%. So I think a better way of doing this is go 24% and then a 1% gap. So we go 24 to all and then 1%. Otherwise it goes kind of out of the screen a little bit. We've still got it going off the edges. So now we don't have a scroll bar, which is good. So these are all nicely aligned to the screen. Now to set these to stack on, say, a mobile or something with a screen smaller than 1024 pixels, we go at media, max width, and then at 1024 we want it to do something. So if this gets smaller than 1024 pixels, we want it to stack these. So to do that, we go pre-grid and we tell it to display instead of grid. We want it to display as a block instead of a grid. So back to its default display. We'll just fix up the tabs again as I'm copying and pasting this from my notes. And now if we reload this, we have it stacking. I'll just turn on my dev tools for a sec and we'll go into responsive and then zoom it a little bit so you can see. So I can't on my screen size is quite small, but I'll just drag the window out. So you can see now this window is larger than 1024, so they go back to grid columns. And then if we move it back here, they stack up and down. That is how you add a grid, CSS grid, and stack it if the screen width gets below 1024. So you can set that to whatever pixels you like. You could have a breakpoint for 1024, which is common, and then one at 800 and one at 600 if you want it to stack further. So if we wanted our grid to do something else at a different res, say that we wanted to stack it into 2s, we could do that as well. So if we go, we'll get rid of this one actually, and we'll just change this to 600 pixels or 800 pixels. And then we could change our template columns to 50 and 50, and then it should display them next to each other. 50 and 50, and then we just delete these two. And now save and reload this. And now you can see at 800 pixels, we have the grid stacking this way instead. And because I added the margin before, that's why I didn't have a margin on it, I think. So now without the margin, it should be nicely gapped 1% and 1%. Then if we drag it out, it'll go back to 4 and back into 800 pixels, back to a stack of 4. So that is it. That is how you use grid and how you change it depending on your pixels width. Anyway, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.